Well, it's a time of year to spend outside at the beach, by the pool, on the ball field, or in the garden. But if we're not careful, those days under the sun could turn dangerous.
Now, we as adults know how important it is to protect ourselves from the sun, but let's be honest, it's something our kids, they really don't get it and they don't worry about it. So it's important for us to be sun-savvy role models. Here's why. One pediatric dermatologist says there is a skin cancer epidemic right now. As a matter of fact, 1 out of every 5 adults will develop skin cancer in their lifetime, and prevention needs to start early.
Just one blistering sunburn during childhood will double your risk of skin cancer later on. But I think that kids will sun protect if they see their parents doing it, and that's the thrust of the message. Follow the leader. The kids will follow right along if they see this is a behavior which is good for them.
Now, you probably already know this. If you don't, you need to be aware of your surroundings. Dr. Duarte there says sand, snow, concrete, water all can reflect up to 85% of sunlight, and as a result can intensify your sun exposure.
I didn't know that. Now, there's so much more you need to know when it comes to sun protection, and there's a lot of myths when it comes to sunscreen. So let's separate fact and fiction.
Here it comes, beach and sun tanning season. And although doctors say you should use it year-round, it's also sunscreen season. But what's the best to use? You spray it on or smear it? And how much SPF do you need? It's all so confusing.
The number I always go by, I don't know where I got it from, is 35 or above. I know that anything mineral-based is going to be better for you.
Turns out Stephanie Pinter-Lyris is kind of half right. Let's set the record straight by debunking some sunscreen myths. First is the belief that the FDA tests sunscreens before they're sold.
The FDA doesn't really test sunscreens at all. It depends on what the manufacturer claims, and that's basically it.
Okay, then what about those SPF numbers? Really high numbers must mean more protection, right?
As long as it's an SPF of 30, you're fine, you're protected very well. Anything higher than that is purely marketing.
In fact, you could go all the way to SPF 100 and only get an extra percentage point or 2 more protection. How about natural sunscreens? Turns out the term natural isn't regulated by the FDA, so it's basically meaningless on a sunscreen label. What about spray-on sunscreens providing better coverage?
Spray sunscreens are fine as long as you don't inhale them. And also, after you apply them, you spread them around so they're evenly distributed.
In other words, you should spread sprays around the same way you would a cream or lotion. But by far the biggest recent myth is a new product being touted as drinkable sunscreen, something about making water molecules in the skin vibrate to block UV rays.
Drinkable sunscreens are really nonsense. I mean, there are all kinds of marketing schemes to sell sunscreens. This, by far, I think, is the wildest.
Probably the most important thing to remember about sunscreen is to use it early, often, and liberally. Meaning, put it on 20 minutes before going out in the sun, use lots of it, a shot glass full for a full body application, and reapply every couple of hours or sooner if you're sweating or swimming.
And here's something else that's very important. You need to pay attention to the expiration date on sunscreen. Yeah, they have them. According to the American Cancer Society, after sunscreens expire, the chemicals begin to degrade and separate, making them less effective. Now, extreme temperatures can also make sunscreen less effective despite its expiration date.
So come on, really, just how bad can the sun damage your skin? Well, this year alone, the American Cancer Society estimates nearly 10,000 people will die from melanoma. Melanoma is the second most common cancer in young American women between the ages of 20 and 35, and it's the second most common cancer in young adults between the ages of 15 and 29. Wendy Zox knows firsthand. When she was 34 years old, she was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma. Doctors removed a cancerous mole from her neck, but by then, the cancer had spread to her brain and her lungs. She says she wishes that she would have done something sooner.
I had people who just constantly would say to me, you know, what is that? What is that going on there? I'm like, I don't know, it's nothing, it's nothing.
Zox oncologist says many patients don't initially take changes in their skin seriously.
And it turns out a certain group of men may be at higher risk for developing melanoma, those who take the so-called little blue pill. A recent study found the prescription drug commonly known as Viagra may increase a man's risk for melanoma by as much as 84%. Now, researchers say they aren't sure why the risk is higher, And there does not appear to be any link between the drug and risk for other types of skin cancers. Researchers don't think Viagra causes melanoma, just that there's a correlation. They say further investigations would need to be conducted to understand cause and effect.
Now, regardless of the source, I think that we've boiled this down to one thing that's true. Melanoma is not something you want to develop. We touched on a few things that you can do to try to prevent your risk, but with so many products on the market, how about we take it one step further to clear up any confusion that you may have?
Joining us today to help is Denise Chamberlain, a nurse case manager with the Wicomico County Health Department. Denise, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Now, we just heard moments ago that a sunburn during childhood can increase your risk of getting cancer. Now, that doesn't mean every sunburn is going to cause cancer, does it?
No, it doesn't. But every time you get burned, it does increase your risk and your chances of getting cancer.
Now, that also doesn't mean your chance of cancer goes away either, right?
No, because actually it's a cumulative effect every time you get burnt, and there's not a way that you can reverse that. You can prevent it from getting worse by using sun-safe measures, but you can't reverse the effects that have already been done by the sun's rays.
Are there any signs that we should be looking for that there may be a problem?
Well, you need to really check your body at least once a month. Check any moles that may be changing in size, color, shape, getting bigger, those types of things. Any new areas that may be coming, you would want to check and have checked.
Now, I understand there's ABCDs of...
Absolutely,
How does that work?
ABCDs of melanoma. The asymmetry, A is for the asymmetry, meaning that it's not completely round, that the diameter may be, well, not the diameter.
An odd shape.
Right, it's an odd shape. It may be bigger on one side than on the other. The B is for the border. The border may be irregular, jagged looking. The C is for the color. It could be more than one color. It could be a tan and a brown, or a black and a red, or different colors. And then the diameter, meaning that normally melanomas are bigger than the size of a pencil eraser. Right. But anytime you have a spot that comes up from nowhere, it wasn't there before, you definitely need to have that checked.
Now, when I was a younger man, not that I would admit that or anything, I used to go outside and I'd do a lot of work, and I would get sunburns, and on occasionally it would blister.
Oh, me too.
What about that? What should we do?
Well, actually, when you blister, you have a second-degree burn. And so, like any other type of burn, depending on how much of the skin surface is burnt. Now, if it's a large amount, you may have to seek health care. But if it's a smaller area, you may want to use cool compresses on that. You may want to take a pain reliever like ibuprofen or Advil. You may want to use a little aloe vera gel or lotion, or even white vinegar, they say, will help.
Love that. Let's talk sunscreens a little bit. You go to the store and you see all the sunscreens and they have these acronyms on them. There's UVA, UVB. How do we know which ones to choose?
Well, there are two different types of rays from the sun. They're invisible. That's how I teach the kids. The sun's rays are invisible. You can't see them. Okay. But the UVA rays, I teach them, cause the aging or the wrinkles. They penetrate deeper under the skin surface. And the B rays cause the burning. So you need to get a broad spectrum. Your sunscreen needs to say broad spectrum when you purchase it at the store.
There's so many numbers on them too. Is there a best number?
The American Academy of Dermatology really recommends a SPF of 30 now. It used to be 15, right. But really anything under an SPF 15, you're really wasting your money because you're getting no protection.
Okay, so there's sprays, there's lotions, there's sticks. Is there any one that's better than the other?
Actually, any one that you're going to use and use properly. The lotions, you need to use at least an ounce, or I tell the kids a shot glass full. A little dab will do you is not good with sunscreen. You really need to put sufficient on there. You need to reapply it at least every 2 hours. Those types of things. You make sure that if you use a spray, that you're out of the wind, because often it will dry before it actually gets, soaked in. And you need to put sunscreen on at least 20 to 30 minutes before you go outside so that it has time to penetrate.
Now, what about waterproof sunscreen? You see some labels say water resistant, waterproof.
Right. There is no such thing as waterproof or sweatproof. And so really the FDA has made them change that what you'll read now is water resistant or sweat resistant. But the best water resistant only lasts about 80 minutes. So you still need to reapply at least every 2 hours.
So if I'm looking around, and I wear short sleeves, so I guess pretty much just check the areas that are exposed to sun to see if I may have a risk there or anything?
You actually need to check your whole body.
Really?
Because you could actually develop melanoma in an area that has never been exposed to the sun.
That can happen
Yes,
under your
it
clothes?
can. Yes,
How
it can.
about that?
Oh my goodness. Denise Chamberlain, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I didn't know that.
And to read more about sun safety and melanoma, go to WBOC.com and click on our picture at the top of the page. Well, still ahead on Delmarva Life, 2 Marine Corps veterans haven't seen each other since serving 4 years ago. Now they're together again. We're going to show you their reunion. And later we're going to hear the sounds of Beauty for Ashes, the husband and wife duo, give a full performance. But first,
We just learned about melanoma. Dr. Oz has some advice of his own to help keep you protected.
To keep your skin healthy and looking young this summer, here's everything you need to know. First, never neglect your face. Always apply a moisturizer that contains an SPF 30 sunscreen every single day, not just in the summer, but all year round. When it comes to bearing lots of skin, choose a 4-star rated UVA blocker and an SPF 45 for UVB radiation. Reapply right after swimming or every 2 hours. And remember to slather that sunscreen on thickly and evenly. You'll need 1 to 2 ounces to cover your whole body and to make sure you don't miss spots like the back of your neck, the ears, or your scalp. And last but not least, intense sunlight can also harm your eyes. So always wear sunglasses or prescription glasses that block UVA rays.